Hi.
Put this all together and then I can.
All right.
No, you're
So
still
ready?
Like.
How is everyone?
Okay. Fine, Claudia. How are you?
Very good, thank you. So, so today we're doing Burgundy. It could have been luxury tasting, but as you probably know, Burgundy is one of the most expensive area in the world for wine, and probably the second one will be Piedmont in Italy.
That's all true.
It happened to be that both Carrie and I favorite areas is Burgundy and the Piedmont. So unfortunately, they have really large price tags. And I think what differentiates our stores from others, besides great employees and customer service, is our wine selection. And it's easy to put great Premier and Grand Cru on a shelf from Burgundy, or very expensive Cabernet from California, or amazing Barolos for $100, $200 a bottle. But what's very difficult is to find wines from those regions that would be affordable, and you drink it, it's like, I cannot believe this is Burgundy or this is Piedmont, and it's spectacular for that price. So today we still went with the 4 wines, and we did Burgundy on the budget. So the most northern part of Burgundy is Chablis, mostly known for their white wines. And then most southern part of Burgundy, which sometimes people don't think it's included, but it is, it's a Beaujolais. So the first wine that we tasting today, it is Chablis. So that's 100% Chardonnay, which is also, as you probably already know, all the wines in Burgundy, so all the whites are Chardonnays for our purposes. There are exceptions of the rule, very minuscule exception, but for our purposes, all white wine coming from Burgundy is 100% Chardonnay, and all red wine coming from Burgundy is Pinot Noir, with the exception of the Beaujolais portion, which is southern Burgundy, which is Gamay grape. And usually those wines that come from the southern Burgundy, from the Beaujolais region, the Gamay grape varietals, are much less expensive than the Pinot Noirs from Burgundy. And you can get amazing deals if you know how to pick them. And Chablis too, it's probably the most advertised wine for many years, where people even call a wine, can I have a Chablis? And in the same sentence would say, oh, but I don't like Chardonnay. And part of it is because of the marketing, where there was a lot of Chablis coming, especially in the United States market, and a lot of them really were not good. There's main reason of them why they were not good is because there's 5 different reasons, but the main one is harvesting in Chablis. It's mostly done by machines. It's like 95% of harvest is machine harvest, which means that grapes are picked ripe or not ripe. If you imagine, if you're going and picking raspberries, you personally would go and find the raspberry that you want to eat, or strawberry or anything else. And the same with the grapes. But if machine would pick it, they would pick everything that it's on the bush, and those all will go into one vat and would be mixed together. And then, especially with Chablis, because of the soil, and not many Chablis, unless they're Premier Cru or Grand Cru, are meant for aging. It was a sea of Chablis that was not really good. It's like many times you go to a restaurant and you ask for Pinot Grigio, and then you don't even want to try different Pinot Grigio because you associate Pinot Grigio with water. So we having 2 different style of Chardonnays, two different style of white Burgundy today. So one of them, again, is from Chablis, which two different camps. Some people don't like to use any oak, or at least not new oak. And then another camp likes to use oak to prolong longevity of their wine, especially if they're coming from the Cru or Grand Cru, Premier Cru vineyards. This to me, it's a perfect example of Chablis. And I think that the value is tremendous. This flavor is very subtle. It has some citrusy notes to it, but it has a great acidity at the same time.
You haven't finished it.
I personally, and actually Carrie as well, we probably from all the wines that we drink, I would say Chablis is one of the 2 or 3 that we drink the most. And one of the reasons, it's extremely versatile. You can start drinking it as an aperitif. You can then move into having with oysters or any seafood, and it's absolutely phenomenal.
Which one goes with it?
And then it also pairs spectacularly with the cheeses. And then the 2 cheeses that we have today are goat cheese, which is aged for a few months. And then we also have a Comté. And like Chablis, Comté in France, well, I shouldn't say like Chablis. This particular cheese, Comté, has the largest production in all of the cheeses in France. And if you're not familiar with Comté, I'm sure you're familiar with the Gruyere, right? You have Gruyere before? So Gruyere and Comté are exactly the same cheese, but the only difference is where they made. They made basically across the border. One village is in Switzerland, Gruyere, and then one village is called Comté, and it's in France. The cheese, like the Chablis, could be absolutely excellent, or it could be nothing to it at all, depending on the producer. So we actually have great examples of the 15 months age Comté, and we have a great example of very affordable Chablis. And Emma, maybe you can help me. I think this particular producer used some oak.
They do, but not with the wine that we're enjoying. So
Not with this one, okay.
Yeah, so like Claudia said, there's different levels within Burgundy. So you start at the regional level. So if you see a bottle of red or white that says Bourgogne on it, that's what the regional level is, which means they're picking grapes from multiple different places. It's usually like in and around the same area, but it's not specific enough to have a name designation on it. Then the next step up is Village, which is what the Chablis is that we're enjoying tonight, the Beaujolais. The next step up from that would be Premier Cru. And then the next step up from that is Grand Cru. So the more you step up, the more focused it is. In Chablis, typically oak, it's never new. It's always old oak, but it's reserved pretty much exclusively for Premier Cru and Grand Cru. And they do that specifically so that the wines can age, similar to what Claudia was saying before. It also, as you step up in designation, it also increases the price point because it's more and more specific. So we kind of touched on this the last time, but what makes Burgundy so special is that in contrast to an area like Bordeaux, where it was just, these are the families that have been in the region for the longest, in Burgundy, it's all about how perfect the terroir is, how precise the soil and the sun and the way that the vines are planted. That's how you get the best wine out of it. And that's where the designation comes from. So price is really indicative of quality in this particular region, but at the same time, there's a lot of hidden values to be found, like the Beaujolais Chablis. So this is 100% hand harvested. This is a family property, the Vauqueray family. They established it in 1870, so they're in their 4th generation now. It's 2 brothers and then one of their cousins. They own over 40 hectares within Chablis, and they really make what I would call a textbook example of what the region has to offer. So there's a specific type of soil when we're talking about terroir that Chablis is known for. And Chablis in landmass is not actually connected to Burgundy. Most of Burgundy is all together. Chablis is separate from it, about like 30 miles north, almost in southern Champagne. And it has the same exact soil type as Champagne, which is why you're getting this really bright, elegant, aromatic, mineral, like just beautiful expression of Chardonnay. It almost doesn't drink like a Chardonnay, especially if you're used to drinking like a California expression. So we really wanted to start here. And then when we get into the Macon Fuissé, we're going to the other end of Burgundy. So all the way further south, and you're gonna be able to taste the difference side by side pretty much immediately. You don't have to have a trained palate to be able to tell the difference.
And it will also remind you more of what you think Chablis tastes like, and more like California style Chablis, and actually natural progression for someone that, let's say, comes to the store and say, you know, I always drank California Chardonnay and I really like the oak, but I would like to have something more similar but from France. That would be a natural switch, natural progression to actually give them the Macon. So I think if you taste it now, then you'll be able to see the difference right away.
Claudia, I have 2 questions. Would you rather we ask them by chat room or that we talk whenever we have a question?
You talk whenever you have a question.
Okay, you're going to regret that. But 2 questions. First one is, you all said this is reasonably priced. So I believe you, but could you give us under 20, under 30, under 40? And also, could you tell us if Vauqueray make other wines other than just the Chablis, because you praise them as a family?
They only make
They only make Chablis, but they do have Cru vineyards, so they do make a little bit more expensive Chablis, and they also, those Chablis then use oak, where this one doesn't. So yes, we usually try not to tell the prices of the wines, but because they all Burgundy, not like, for example, comparing different flavors of rosé, and then you already tasted it. This is, I believe, is $34.99.
So everything we're gonna have is less than $40, which is a steal for the region.
So does that answer a question?
Could you tell us which cheese is which?
So the lighter cheese is the goat's milk cheese from Vermont, and then the yellowish cheese is Comté. And they versatile enough to pair with the Chablis very well. The Comté will be a better cheese to go with the red wine, where with the white wine, especially with the Chablis, both cheeses go very well.
So
Okay, I think they have guests joining them. That's why they didn't respond. So, okay, very good. So let's move on to the next.
Another question here.
Yeah. I have a question, Claudia. I just read in the New York Times that the wine producers in France are dumping their wine to make hand sanitizer.
Excuse me?
Have you read that? The wine producers in France are dumping their wine because of the tariffs that we have here in the United States, and because of all this, they're dumping their wine to make hand sanitizer. Have you heard about that?
I haven't read that article, but yes, I heard something like that, and the tariffs are horrific. They don't help anyone
Right.
including the domestic producers of wine. Like one would think that maybe common sense would say, oh, great, they're gonna sell more of California or more Oregon because we have tariffs. That's not the case. And also go like, again, simple-minded person would think like, oh, great, tariffs, let's be all about America, but later on, we're not going to be able to get these wines again. Japan is going to buy it all, and then 3 years from now, 2 years from now, when they're going to get allocation of all these wines that we like, and then when America, where administration, changes later than sooner, then we're going to lose all this allocation. We're not going to be able to drink these amazing wines.
Well, I just have a feeling that they're not even making it. They're just selling it off, and these, especially the smaller winemakers that are desperate. They're desperate. They're little
Absolutely,
small companies.
The amazing terroir, amazing Burgundies, and this was the region they were concentrating on. They're not going to dump the wines. I mean, we're talking about bottles of wine selling for $2,000.
Yeah.
They just basically, New York with all these restaurants, I'm telling you right now, it's gonna all go to Japan, and we're not gonna be able to get the allocations anymore in the future.
Thank you.
Yeah, we gotta switch this because it gets me on a different subject.
Okay.
Water? Yeah, I'd love some water.
Has everybody had a sip of the second white? So like I mentioned, we're in the Marcenae now. So we're in southern Burgundy. Beaujolais Volage is what a lot of people know. We can thank the Gwen family for that. This is really, in addition to being one of like the first expressions of white Burgundy that was really white throughout the U.S. And because of sort of what Claudia had mentioned before, because we're in southern Burgundy, we're in a much warmer climate. The sun is really bright here, and the soil has a lot more water in it. So what is a riper grape, and you're really going to taste that in the glass. So it's definitely still going to have that acidity and that brightness, which is a marker of Burgundy in general. But it's really about the temperature change here, and you're going to notice a little bit more of that like lush fruit. You'll even feel the weight in your mouth and how it's a little bit softer and rounder and have more of like almost a tropical kind of note to it and less about the citrus. So the Souffrandis, this is again like another family property, like a lot of the wines that we sell at Brix. They're in their 6th generation, and it's now a husband and wife duo. The soil in this particular area of Burgundy is really compact with clay, and so this is where Chardonnay thrives. There is next to no red wine that grows in this area. They really focus on the white. So it's a nice contrast. And like Claudia was mentioning earlier, if you really like a California expression of Chardonnay, or we can even say like just a warmer climate of Chardonnay, like something from South Africa or Australia, for example, or you have friends that do, and you really like Burgundy, the Marcenae is a really nice place to meet in between so that everybody can enjoy it together.
So question, from the northern end of Chablis to the Marcenae, how many miles is that in distance?
It's really not far. It's like 30 miles, maybe 40 miles. Yeah, it's not far at all. But they pack a lot into a short distance.
But it's very different. It's very different soil, like Emma said, and it's the Chablis has a more marine influence, and it's younger in the years of aging. So it's also, like she said, very separated. So it's very different, and it's mostly white growing region, where obviously Burgundy, the other part of Burgundy, with the exception of Chablis, is whites and reds.
Right.
So which one you like? Which one you like better? Which of the wines did you prefer? You like them both, or you prefer one over the other?
I think our
I think
table
that-
here, like the Chablis.
I
Which-
think that-
this, where is it? Who is talking?
I can't see.
The person you can't see.
Oh, okay, very good. Yes.
And we have a bunch of people here who are drop-ins, and we all merged, all tended to like the Chablis better.
Very
Now,
good.
can I ask you, are you mostly Sauvignon Blanc drinkers?
No, not at all.
Ah,
That's
what,
mine.
what whites do you typically drink?
Yes.
Heaviest Chardonnay they can give me. Oh, we have half the table is Sauvignon Blanc, but I like Chardonnay usually,
Yeah.
and heavy Chardonnay.
So that's amazing. You mostly like heavy Chardonnay, but you prefer the Chablis, which
But
doesn't
I've always liked
over
Chablis
the
as a
Macon.
wine. Yes, and I've always liked Chablis as a wine because it's very clean tasting.
Yes, it was
Yeah.
so light, as you said, citrusy and light and lovely.
Great.
Really, you made a hit. That's a big hit with everyone.
Yeah. So this is Carrie and I, as I said, we drink a lot of Chablis. Our favorite Chablis for last 5 years is Rignard Chablis, but it's different price point. It's like $58. So we start with the first bottle, which we drink Rignard, and then the second bottle is actually what you're drinking right now, which is the Vauquerès. So you need to now try on your own the Rignard Chablis. You might have tried it already. It's a very unique bottle. It's kind of like a voluptuous. Have you? No.
I love that wine. Everybody should go to Brix and buy it. It's amazing.
All right, very good. So we have the votes about the Chablis. So let's move to the reds. And so what we have here, as I said, so we have 2 different grape varietals. We have Gamay grape, 100%, and then we have Pinot Noir. We chose that particular Gamay, that particular cru Beaujolais. There's 10 different crus. Emma can talk about it more later, but there used to be 9, and I think 3 years ago or so, or 4 years ago, they got awarded a 10th one. And a Fleury tend to be, and especially this particular winemaker tends to make it very Burgundian in style. So somebody that it's not very trained palate. So for example, I probably would maybe even say, oh, I wonder if this is Burgundy, where my business partner Carrie would say, oh, that's 100%, Gamay grape. She has more trained palate. I'll let you judge on your own, but I think this is absolutely incredible expression of Gamay grape that really wants to be Pinot Noir. And it's really great with a slight chill. So whoever dial in at 5:30 or 5:35, I said you should just put it for 10 minutes in a refrigerator because it benefits from a little bit cooler temperature. So let's try it.
So like Claudia mentioned, Beaujolais is in the southern tip of Burgundy. It's technically part of Burgundy, but it's become its own appellation in the last several years. There's 10 different crus. So cru is village, and each cru has a different soil type, which leads to a different expression of the same grape in your glass. So a lot of people, or most people, have heard of Beaujolais Nouveau. It always comes out right before Thanksgiving. That's 100% Gamay. It's Gamay grapes sourced from multiple different village plots throughout Beaujolais, and it's vinified in a very specific way called carbonic maceration. So the grapes are picked early, they live like a little fizz in the bottle, and it's intended not to age at all, just to be enjoyed immediately, nice and fresh and bright. There are mass-produced expressions of it, and then there are more natural wine, very small producer expressions of it. Then there's Beaujolais Volage, which is similar to what we were talking about with Bourgogne Rouge or Bourgogne Blanc. These are Gamay grapes sourced from multiple different vineyard sites, or village sites, excuse me, vinified in a traditional way. Then the more specific you get, is the Beaujolais Cruise. So this is when we're talking about Morgon, Juliana, Chenin, Côte de Brouilly, Brouilly. With this one in particular, you're enjoying a fleury. So you're right smack dab in the middle of the appellation. And each cru is known for a different expression of the grape. Fleury is flower in French. So it's the most aromatic expression of Gamay. It typically has like a very linear sort of violet note, lilac. It's very, very aromatic. A little bit more restrained on the fruit, which is why Anne-Sophie Dubois ended up in this particular part of Beaujolais. So she's originally from Champagne. She didn't grow up in a winemaking family. She just grew up in that area. She fell in love with wine and actually studied winemaking in Burgundy in a village called Volnay. And so we thought this would be a nice expression of the Gamay grape, because it's very Burgundian in style, because that's where her training comes from. That's where her sensibility is. So definitely much more restrained on the fruit, super aromatic. It's dark and brooding, a little mineral driven, and has almost like a tea, like a black tea kind of tannic note to it. She produces wines unfined, unfiltered. She is all about the terroir in the glass. So when we're talking about terroir, we're talking about the symbiosis of grape, soil, climate, winemaker, all of those things together. But it's really about the grapes and the place that they come from speaking for themselves from a sense of place. Beaujolais is a great value region because the land is a lot less expensive than Burgundy. So what you're finding is a lot of young winemakers who are actually able to purchase vineyards and create something on their own instead of being a negociant in Burgundy, which is someone that just makes wine in the region but purchases the grapes from someone else. Gamay and Beaujolais is a perfect sort of little in-between. So they can express themselves, bring something out into the world, and you get to enjoy it at a more value-driven price point. There are some more expensive Beaujolais, but they tend to cap, they're always under $100. I've never seen one that's over 100.
Yeah.
Which is like, you know, even in like the $75 price point, that's expensive for Beaujolais. Typically you're in like the 40 or under. So we're kind of in that comfort zone right here.
And then this is, Beaujolais are spectacular during the summertime because, as I said before, they benefit from chilling. And they're great with charcuterie, with light fare, anything like even like burgers, barbecue.
Yeah.
Those are, the Gamay grape is probably the best pairing for your barbecues.
This is an impressive wine for 2018. How much aging will change this?
It would start to become flabby, but it probably can age. You can probably hold it for 5 years.
Yeah.
But they again, not meant to be Gamay grape in general, unless maybe you go to like one of the smallest cru, Morgon, where the wines are a little bit more weight. They really, most of them are not meant to be aged. They meant to be enjoyed fresh and young. No different than the Chablis, which is not Premier Cru, which wasn't aged in oak. That's why you get this freshness, but the quality of grapes, and because it was hand harvested in this particular example with the Chablis, you don't see this green fruit. It's enjoyable and delicious, but it really is meant to be consumed within 5 years.
Yeah.
Both the Chablis and this Gamay that we drink.
I like this.
It's great. And also, like, I'm the percentage of alcohol queen, since I'm the oldest from the whole group that works with me. I'm just really curious about the percentage of alcohol. You can't even see it. Yeah, there you go, 12.5%. And that's why rosés, we can, sure, when we on vacation, it's very different. You know, we are relaxed, we can drink more, we drink for a long period of time, we eat with it, but still rosés, when we vacationing, they have generally less alcohol. And so it's really well produced Gamay grape. And I bet you that Chablis is also on the lower
Probably 12 point.
price. Yeah, 12.5. There you go. I can almost now know exactly when I taste something what percentage of alcohol it has, and that goes a long way. So if you want to drink red wine in the summer, drink, you know, as much or twice as much water than wine, have a little bit less alcohol, you can drink it all day. All right, so we're going to the next one, which is Pinot Noir, Marcenae. And now you can bite on your cabanossi. I hope that everybody is meat eater and can enjoy it. This is actually something that I grew up on. I'm from Poland, for those who don't know. And it's that pretty much I do not eat kielbasa or other sausages, which is kind of funny, but that is like one expression of it that I do eat, because there's very little fat and really great flavor and texture. So I hope you like it, and it will go superbly with the Marcenae. So you can take over.
Okay. So the red grapes in Burgundy grow predominantly in an area called the Côte d'Or, or the Golden Slope. So it's this very short group of hills and valleys and slopes that work together. And it's broken up into two different sections. The Côte de Nuit is in the top, and the Côte de Beaune is in the bottom. The Côte de Nuit is where you're mostly finding the Grand Cru and Premier Cru vineyards because of the soil type, similar to what we were talking about before, and the sun exposure. So Marcenae is pretty interesting because it is the farthest northern village that actually grows the red grapes, but it's also one of the richest expressions of Pinot Noir. So we thought this would be a nice one to try, because I like to use the term accessible. Like, it's very, very accessible at a younger vintage. This is not something you need to age. It still has that bright acidity to it, but it really has this purity of fruit, this really round, soft, lush, juicy expression of the grape that you might be familiar with if you drink like a California, or more accurately, probably an Oregon Pinot Noir. So this is, again, a family property. They're a little bit younger. This is the Coyo family. They were established in 1960. So it started with the father, Bernard, passed down to the son, Christopher. Everything is hand harvested. So, you know, paying attention in the vineyard sites. All of the grapes are sorted in the vineyards. And not only in this expression are you getting a single village, Marcenae, you're also getting a single vineyard as well, which is the Chambre du Petre. So if you look at the label, you'll see Marcenae, and then there's a little title right below it, and that's the specific vineyard site. So again, a very, very value-driven expression of red Burgundy. There's a little bit of like that black currant and the spice, and you open this up and you can drink it right away. You don't need to wait. You don't need to cellar age it. It's just, we absolutely love it. This is, I think, our third vintage carrying it, and every year it just gets better and better and better. So we thought it'd be a nice contrast to the lightness of the Gamay and the dusty tannin that has to offer.
And again, it's still lighter that you probably used to drinking if you're drinking more of a California or Oregon, especially California Pinot Noirs that see more oak. Even though the last 3 years or so, both the Cabernet producer, domestic Cabernet producer, and Pinot Noir producers are slowly but surely getting away from this over-oaked wines. So you definitely see more almost Pinot Noirs that are not excessively oaked, or at least not new oak, that you used to see, let's say, 10 years ago.
So this is typically something like a Marcenae is typically something that you would pair with meat. That's like the classic. It's not just because it's red wine, it has to do with the weight of the grape. But personally, I really enjoy it with like a swordfish steak off of the grill, or tuna, something that's like a little meatier and almost has like a hint of smoke to it. It's really nice with that. This is another one that you can throw in the refrigerator for a few minutes before you enjoy it on a warm day. So it's also a great summertime option.
So what are the comments? Did you like it? Was it enough body for you all?
I thought it was very nice.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a very light wine, but it has easy drinkability, you know, and I could see sitting around in the afternoon and easily imbibing without feeling like I'm getting heavy,
Punch face?
weighted down. Yeah.
Yeah.
All I did is unmute. I think that it started out a little heavier, and I think it's gotten lighter. I love it.
Definitely opens
Good.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful.
This is one of those, you don't always have to decant Burgundy, but this is one that benefits from a little air. So you don't even need to own a decanter. You can just open it like an hour before you want to really drink it if you're serving it with a meal, and it'll just be that much better.
Really,
Yes.
really nice choice. This is.
Yeah, delicious, delicious. So just
So hot.
you know the pricing. So Chablis, as we said, is $34.99.
Hold on, she's giving us price.
The Macron was $29.99. The Beaujolais, the Cru Beaujolais was $23.99, and then the Marcenae $34.99. So these are all very affordable wines that are really, I think, top notch, all of them. So any other questions?
We didn't talk much about the cheeses.
Did you like the Comté?
Like everything.
Yes.
Comté is extremely versatile. It goes almost everybody likes it. Almost goes with almost everything. The best really is with probably Jura wines, because that's close to, but it's fantastic with Chablis and Burgundy, red Burgundy, and then it's great on like melting it on something, and it's probably, for me, is the best grilled cheese, sandwich cheese.
Hands down, so good.
I can believe that.
Thank you. This is
All
great.
right. Wonderful. Well, great to see you all. Any other questions before we sign out?
What's next?
What's next? You know, I was thinking, since we have a lot of people are repeat same audience, what we could do is, I know that everybody was asking about luxury tasting. We could maybe learn more if we want to, because we just tasted Burgundy on the budget. We could pick a really spectacular Burgundy white and spectacular Burgundy red, or we can forget about the region and go somewhere else. So what are you guys thinking? More knowledge or just more diversity?
Tonight, 25 to 40. Tonight.
It all sounds good, but I really like the idea of maybe doing one white and one red that you find to be very emblematic of some of the best in the region.
Of that particular region in Burgundy, or? Yes.
I love Burgundy, so, but that doesn't mean, yeah.
I think Burgundy's a good pick. I agree with Ellen. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, as we learning this, because people say, "Oh, this is nice," like you, sir, Mr. Hickey, Kevin Hickey. Like you said, this is great. I can enjoy it full day. Doesn't weigh me down. I don't think there is really a red Burgundy that I can think of that it would weigh me down, but I definitely find some of the white Burgundies that if you don't pair them with the right food, I feel even though they're white, they could weight you down. So, but also they're absolutely spectacular. You like almost cannot believe that you can drink and somebody can produce such a spectacular liquids. So yeah, that could be a possibility. Just
I
doing
love
one spectacular bottle of white and one spectacular bottle of red from Burgundy. And then
I
we
love
continue with Burgundy, but this time not on the budget.
Right.
I love that you did. Am I on mute? Am I good? You can hear all of our ambient noise.
I
I'm
can
sorry.
hear
You
you.
hear
I
it.
can
Driving. So I love that we did it. I'm happy we got to join it. We sort of, everyone fell in to see what was happening, and everyone's going back to the store to buy them. Thank you, Great Harvard, for putting together. I also love that this worked with this heat and the weather. And I know it's not the heat of DC or New York or any, but it's still warm and humid. And this, we were all sitting outside, and it's so pleasant. And the wine is delicious. And the taste, this is a very diverse group of drinkers. So this was really, you had a lot of big hits.
Thank you very, very, very much. That's very wise words. And we always, perfect example of how we always think about what people eat, what the surroundings are, and mostly what seasons we are in. The best example of the budget and all these factors is our Brick 6. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but yes, so the Brick 6 is basically 6 wines in a kind of old-fashioned milk container made from cardboard opposed to metal. And these are definitely seasonally inspired. We'll never put a heavy Cabernet in the middle of the summer, and we will not put a light rosé in the middle of the winter. And I have to tell you that actually, Carrie mostly does all the selection, but also Emma is very monumental in aiding her. It takes longer to every month pick the wines for the Brick 6 than is to pick the wines for 3 stores. Simply because there is sea of undrinkable wine. So being able to select 6 wines month after month after month, 17 years later, to be proud of them and put a price point of $85 for 6 wines, it really, you need to not only have a knowledge and palate, but time that she puts into it, it's incredible. And then when you pick up your Brick 6 for maybe the next weekend, I think they're doing the Boston Pops, the write-up that Carrie is the writer, she's journalist major, and it's always good, but this particular write-up is incredible. Like, she always reads it to me and I'll say, well, maybe change this sentence or do this or do this. I'm like, perfect. That's amazing. So I'm glad. Thank you very much for your comments. Really appreciate it. They're always inspiring for us to do better.
Claudia, I have one more question.
Yes.
When you were talking about the wines that were heavy, you wouldn't do this time of the year, were they because there was more alcohol content?
Usually the wines that have more alcohol are heavier.
Okay.
Usually, but that's not always I mostly was thinking about the body of the wine.
Okay.
But usually they go hand by hand.
Okay.
But the body of the wine, it's almost like if you think about skim milk, 1%, 2% for milk or cream. So when I talk about how heavy is the wine, I mostly think about the body. But it just happened to be
it's the first time I've heard of
usually the same thing, that usually the heavy wines are the wines that are made
That have more alcohol.
Varietals, and particular grape varietals, and more oak, more ageable wines. and more alcohol. But you know, there's perfect example that I can think of it right now that is fairly good amount of alcohol, and it's considered a heavier full body wine. It's a Barolo, but again, like everything else that surrounds us, not only in the wine world, it's depending on the producer. Gaia, for example, which are amazing wines, one of the top wines in the world. They're also one of the most expensive wines. You cannot taste the 14% alcohol. You cannot taste it in an alcohol level, and you cannot taste in a body level. And that's why those wines, to me, if you can afford them, they worth every penny.
Perfect. Thank you. You always have so much insight. We just love hearing from you. Thank you so much, Claudia.
Thank you. Thank you, Emma. Thank you, everyone.
For another session, you could think about a French white, maybe a Sancerre, and then a very nice white Burgundy, and then move to the reds and have a something somewhat light but nice, and then a very nice red Burgundy.
Okay. So we still want to do 4 wines. Like if we're going to do nice Burgundy, then the price is going to go up.
That's okay.
Dramatically. Or we can just do 2 and it would be not dramatical. So why don't you send your comments to Sarah? And I think that not everybody then is in front of everybody saying their opinion, and then we can take that and make the right decision.
No, that's fine. But the 2 nice ones might need a warm up.
I schedule a meeting. Otherwise.
Claudia, I wanted to say another thing. We stopped in yesterday and everyone in the shop was wonderful. And we met, I guess, with Katie, your Carrie.
Carrie, yes.
Great. And whoever else was there. I don't know that you were there, Emma. I don't
Camila.
think so. Lovely. I asked also about okay, you're going to all laugh. It's gin. That you had some local Cape gin. So I'm looking at Sarah and saying,
Local Cape gin.
Oh, now we want to move into cocktail hour.
We've actually had another request for a gin tasting.
Yeah, Sarah, which do you sell more of, alcohol or wine?
I'm sorry?
You sell enough alcohol to justify the switch from wine to alcohol eventually?
I mean, so this is all coming right from Britt. So
yeah, this is nothing besides the connection. There is nothing coming.
I know, but she knows what her people drink.
I mean, we've got Christian and Steven, so of course we have a great gin selection. But we do plenty of gin drinks, and we have had one other request for a gin tasting. So, August is pretty light on events other than just our usual kind of Sunday suppers and Taco Tuesdays. So if we want to, for Claudia, and if it works for everyone, and we do want to maybe do a gin tasting or maybe do another kind of budget wine tasting and do a premier wine tasting, we can fit all of those in.
Well, I love the educational aspect, and I love that you had such a nice selection. And I don't know if you can hear the other end of the table is clamoring for more single malt Scotch and single malt Scotch tastings.
Well, if this coronavirus, is here to stay, you'll be here. Plenty of time to single malt Scotches. Yes.